If you are here, chances are you want to learn SAP Transportation Management, and maybe you're thinking about becoming an SAP TM consultant. If that's your goal, you have gone to the right place. In this course, we are going to start from zero and build your understanding of SAP TM step by step. You will learn the concepts, understand the configuration behind them, and practice how the different pieces in SAP TM come together. By the end, you will have the foundation you need to take your first real step into the SAP TM consultant. So let's start from the beginning. This will be the course journey. We'll build our SAP TM knowledge step by step. First, we'll start with the foundation, introduction, and organizational structure, where we'll also configure the structure directly in the system. Then, we'll move into master data, creating and configuring the data that SAP TM needs to run the transportation processes. Next, we'll connect TM with the logistic processes through logistic integration, including configuration and testing. And finally, we'll bring everything together with planning and execution, where we'll run end-to-end transportation process directly in the system. So each chapter builds on the previous one, and by the end, you'll have the complete picture from the foundation all the way to transportation execution. So don't think of this as four separate videos. Think of them as a fourth step of the same journey. One quick note: freight costing and settlement is not included as a separate chapter in this course because we already covered it in a dedicated video. You can explore that video as complementary content after completing this basic TM journey. So let's start by asking, what is transportation management? Transportation management is the process of planning, organizing, executing, and controlling the movement of goods from one location to another. In simple terms, whenever a company needs to move products, whether from a supplier to warehouse, from a warehouse to a customer, or between different facilities, there is a transportation process that needs to be managed. Transportation management brings together all the key aspects of a transportation process, from the goods that need to be moved to the destination and delivery time, the transportation method and carrier, and the transportation cost. So, at a high level, we can think the transportation management as an end-to-end process for managing the movement of goods efficiently, on time, and at the right cost. And this is the fundamental business problem that SAP Transportation Management is designed to help companies solve. In traditional SAP ERP, transportation was mainly handled through LE, Logistic Execution Module, focusing on basic shipping processing. With SAP S/4HANA, SAP introduced transportation management as a more comprehensive solution. SAP TM expand transportation management from simple processing shipment to managing the transportation process more broadly. And with advanced TM, companies can also use more sophisticated capabilities such as routing, carrier selection, load consolidation, and optimization. SAP TM also provides different levels of functionality. Basic transportation management provides the fundamental capabilities required to manage transportation processes, including transportation planning, freight order creation, transportation execution, freight costing, and freight settlement. Advanced transportation management extends these capabilities with more sophisticated planning and optimization. For example, planning based on directly on sales and purchases orders, whereas in basic TM, planning is based on deliveries. Combining inbound and outbound planning, advanced vehicle scheduling, route optimization, carrier selection, load consolidation, advanced load planning. These capabilities become particularly valuable for a company for large and complex transportation networks. The key factor is the SAP TM license assigned to the S/4HANA system. Basic TM is included in the standard S/4HANA Enterprise Management scope, while Advanced TM requires the corresponding additional license. SAP TM can be deployed in different system landscapes depending on where TM runs relative to ERP S/4HANA system. Embedded TM runs inside the same S/4HANA system. The business documents and TM processes are in the same system, which makes overall landscape simpler. There's no any integration in between. ERP and TM coexist in the same box. Next, we have the standalone side-by-side TM. Here, TM runs in the separate system from the ERP S/4HANA system. The two systems need an integration layer to exchange master and transactional data. The classic option, especially for older SAP TM landscapes, to integrate each other is SAP PIPO. In the modern cloud-based integration option, usually use SAP Integration Suite or Cloud Integration CPI. The centralized TM is particularly relevant when transportation and warehouse processes need to operate separately from the central ERP system. SAP currently supports decentralized EWM and TM scenarios, including advanced shipping and receiving. In this setup, the decentralized EWM and TM system communicates with the central ERP system. S/4HANA Cloud. With S/4HANA Cloud, TM capabilities are available as part of the S/4HANA environment depending on the edition and scope. It comes mainly in two editions, Public Edition and Private Edition. They are both cloud offering, but they differ in functionality, flexibility, and deployment model. A typical transportation process can be understood in five simple steps. Order management. First, the company has a transportation requirement. For example, goods need to be delivered to a customer or received from a supplier. Transportation plan. Next, we decide how the goods will be transported. This can include selecting the transportation mode, such as rail or road, and selecting the carrier. Transportation and execution. Once the transportation is planned, it can be executed. This includes creating the transportation documents, tracking the shipment, and integrating with our warehouse processes. Freight costing and settlement. If an external carrier is used, the company needs to calculate and pay the transportation service. SAP TM can calculate these costs and support the settlement with the carrier. Analytics and reporting. Finally, the SAP TM provide the reports and analytics to help the company monitor and analyze its transportation processes. So let's get deeper on how TM process actually is. Let's assume a customer sales order has resulted in an outbound delivery that needs to be transported from a warehouse to a customer. Through the integration between SD and TM, the delivery becomes a transportation requirement in TM. Based on the transportation requirement and the freight unit building rule, SAP TM creates a freight unit. Freight unit building rule is basically the instruction of how the freight unit will be created based on the incoming requirement. The freight unit is the basic object used to represent what needs to be transported. It contains information such as the product, quantities, source, destination, and transportation dates. The freight units need to be planned for transportation. During planning, we determine how the goods will be transported. This can include transportation mode, carrier, route, vehicle or resource, dates and schedules, consolidation with other freight units. Once the transportation is planned, SAP TM creates a freight order. The freight order represents the actual transportation that needs to be executed. One freight order can contain one or multiple freight units. For example, several customer delivers can be consolidated into the same freight order. The freight order becomes the main document for managing the execution of the transportation. It provides the information needed to execute and monitor the transport. These include pickup and delivery location, stops, loading and unloading, transportation events, execution status, tracking information. After or during the execution, SAP TM can calculate the transportation cost. The calculation is based on the freight agreement, rates, scales, and other pricing conditions maintained for the carrier. The goal is to determine how much the transportation service should cost. Once the transportation has been executed and the cost has been calculated, SAP TM creates a freight settlement document. The freight settlement document represents the amount that needs to be settled with the carrier. Depending on the integration scenario, the settled information can be transferred to the ERP S/4HANA system. This can lead to the creation of a purchase order and service entry sheet, which support the subsequent supplier invoice and payment process. And with that, we complete the basic end-to-end transportation process in SAP TM. In TM, business scenarios split in two core models. Shipper, which is related to manufacturers and retailers moving their own goods, and LSP, logistics service provider, offering transport service to external or internal clients. Both models handle order management, planning, and settle differently based on who owns the commercial and physical process. In shipper scenario, a company manages the transportation of its own goods, typically from a plant or warehouse to the customer. The transportation process usually starts from the documents such as sales orders, purchase orders, or stock transfer orders, and deliveries. LSP, Logistics Service Provider scenario, a company provides the transportation or logistics service to other companies. The process can start with a forwarding order, and TM manage the transportation service provided to the customer. In this course, we'll focus on the SAP TM shipper scenario, using a practical end-to-end process from the transportation requirement through planning and execution. Before we can run a transportation process in SAP TM, several components, master data, and configuration settings need to be in place. In the next chapters, we'll build the foundation required for the process to work. We'll start with the organizational structure, then move into the master data, including both ERP and TM specific data. After that, we'll configure the logistic integration between the modules, followed by the key configuration required for the transportation planning and execution. By the end of this course, we'll have the foundation needed to run the end-to-end transportation process in SAP TM. Before we start configuring SAP TM, we need to understand how the organization is represented in the system. The organizational structure provides the foundation of the transportation processes. It defines which organization units are involved, what their responsibilities are, and how they work together. In SAP TM, the organizational structure can represent different business perspectives, such as sales, purchasing, and transportation planning and execution. For example, on the purchasing side, the organization is responsible for purchasing transportation services from carriers. On the planning and execution side, the organization is responsible for planning and executing the transportation. SAP TM also has a company organization, which responds to the company code and is relevant for transportation charge management. Depending on the business scenario, these organizational units can be structured and related to each other to define responsibilities and support the transportation processes. For our shipper scenario, we'll mainly focus on the organizational units required to support the transportation process, particularly the company, purchasing, and planning and execution structures. Now that we understand the concept, let's move into the system and build the organizational structure step by step. From this point on, I recommend following along with the hands-on practices so you can see how the concepts we discuss actually works in the system. In this first exercise, we'll create the organizational structure for our Pacific company scenario. We'll configure the company, purchasing organization, and purchasing group in the TM organizational structure, link them to their corresponding ERP organizational units. We also create the planning and execution organization and the planning and execution group. Let's jump into the SAP TM and build the structure step by step. In the SAP TM system, we'll start by using transaction PPOC. The system will automatically open a pop-up asking us to confirm the validity period of the new organizational structure. Here we enter the required dates and continue. In the next screen, under the Basic Data tab, we enter the ID and description of our company. Now let's move to the Organizational Data tab. Here we can see the Organization ID, which will be the internal ID assigned to this company organization in SAP TM. We select the Create icon and choose the Organization Unit function. In this case, we select Company. Next, we define the organization unit role. For this company, we select Organization. We then select the Business System Group, or BSG. Identify the logical system from which the corresponding organizational data originates and it's used by the SAP TM for integration with the connected ERP system. Finally, in the BSG organization unit field, we enter 0001, which is the company code in our ERP system. This establishes the relationship between the company organization in SAP TM and the corresponding company code in ERP. Now, under the company structure, we'll create a new organizational unit for the purchasing organization. We'll follow the same step as before. The difference is that under organization data, the organization unit function will be purchasing, while the organization unit role will remain organization. For the BSG organization unit, we'll enter 001 according to the values defined in our practice scenario. Next, we'll create a purchasing group using the same approach. The main difference is that the organization unit role will be group. Once the purchasing structure is in place, we'll move on to creating the planning and execution organization and group under the company structure. I will create them first, and then I will assign the organizational unit and role. In planning organization, we select the organization unit function as planning and execution. And the unit role will be organization. Same for the group, but the unit role will be group. Congratulations, you have just completed the very first step in your SAP TM implementation journey. We have successfully created the organizational structure that will provide the foundation for the transportation processes we'll configure throughout this course. And this is just the beginning. Let's keep building from here. See you in the next session. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.